Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 7 of the Contest Realm podcast. Still can't believe we're up to number 7, but it's a good lucky number 7. And if you want to find out where you can find the podcast, well, on a weekly basis, it's on YouTube. But also, we have SoundCloud, we have Spotify and iTunes as well. And obviously this is our 7th episode. And it's been a very busy week. As we said, I say that every time. It has been. Every week is very busy with Kabam putting new things in for us. And obviously changing things with Act 6 rewards. 26.0 has just gone in. We've also got the boss rush imminent. So by the time I'm editing together some bits for this podcast, it should have dropped. And obviously with daylight savings time, it's a little bit earlier than normal. Well, at least for me, that is. And obviously in every episode, you can find links in the bios for Dan, Frontline MCOC, who I'm going to be introducing in a moment, and also our guest, because we do have a guest in this episode. But obviously, I want to introduce my co-host. He's been putting so much work into Frontline MCOC, and obviously if you follow him on Twitter, you'll know that, and he does so many write-ups, guides, and other information, and check out the links in the bio. Hello, Dan. Thank you for joining me as my glamorous co-host.
Oh, thank you, Rich. It is good to be talking to you again because there is so much going on in Marvel Contest of Champions right now. And honestly, I feel the need to catch up a little bit because it has just been an insane week. And the hits just keep coming next week.
Oh, yeah, with the completion of Act 6, the story. That's going to be the crucial thing of where the story ends and how it begins with all that stuff that we talked about with the Union. But as you know, we do have a guest with us. Now, I've got a big intro for him, Dan.
Well, you've got to, because this guy deserves the hype.
Okay, so if you didn't know, he's the master of Kung Fu. He's been labelled the Bruce Lee of MCOC. He's black belt in Evade. It's Karate Mike. Welcome.
I love it. I love it.
I think I'm getting a bit better with these intros each time. I've been sitting.
I tell you, Rich, I'm digging it.
I've been sitting on Kabam McCays for about 3 weeks, and I tell you what, when we eventually get that booked, there's going to be. I want to find his reaction. But welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, man. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much for welcoming me to your show.
Brilliant. And obviously, one thing we want to do is we want to find out a bit more about yourself now. You've got the YouTube channel, as always mentioned. Links are in the bio. Go check out Karate Mike.
Absolutely.
So, why the name? Obviously, I gave you a karate build-up. Is there some truth to that?
Yeah. Well, my dude, I actually did karate for 10 years growing up, all right?
Wow.
So I started acting and singing and doing karate all around the same time when I was 5 years old. So I did the karate thing until I was about 15 or so. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I did have to cut back on it a bit when I got more serious about the acting. Yeah. My agent at the time, he had me back and forth into the city every weekend. And that, on top of having to do that whole stupid high school thing, it was kind of hard to stay consistent training. Yeah. And martial arts is really one of those things that you have to give yourself fully to. And when I got to college, I was really missing it. So I started working out pretty hard to fill that physical void in my life, and that's where I really fell in love with bodybuilding and powerlifting, which I've been doing consistently now for about 5 years. But for the name Karate Mike, at the time when I was about 10 years old, I had the glorious privilege of having my first email account, and of course the best thing I can come up with at the time was Karate Mike 415, and April 15th is my birthday. So that's where the 415 comes in. And it's just something that's stuck ever since as on my social media and gaming tags,
Well, I know you just mentioned something about acting there and agents. That's pretty big. That's pretty big stuff. Have you appeared in anything, or have you been working?
I've actually mostly been a stage actor for my life. But I've recently started kind of going more towards film, and I just recently filmed a feature film that it's called Getaway, and it's probably going to appear on Netflix. I would assume within the next couple months. It's a horror film, and I play one of the leads, and it's about a group of teenagers who are in college, right? Yeah. And they are in a film study class, and they have a project to film a certain genre of movies, and the group of people that are being filmed in this movie. They're doing a horror flick. So they kind of like rent this cabin for the weekend, and they go stay at the cabin. And, obviously there's a killer, and you got to find out who the killer is. And it's one of those movies. Yeah. And it's a guy who dresses up as a scarecrow. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And when I graduated in May, and, I was a musical theater and acting major.
Yeah.
And what we do is we bring in agents and casting directors from New York City to campus. And I ended up signing with one of the agents. And so he's having me out on auditions all the time. And I talk to him all the time about how I want to really do more TV and film stuff. So we're really focusing on those sort of auditions all the time. But I'm still doing the stage thing as well. But that's pretty much where I am with that,
That's absolutely incredible. Dan, you get a load of this. Like,
we need to have a viewing party when this movie comes out, right?
I think we should.
This is going to be awesome.
Star of MCOC stage and film. Like, come on, that's absolutely incredible.
Thank you, man.
You're coming off like you're good at too many things.
Yeah.
Like you're an endgame player in MCOC. You know karate. You can act. You can sing. You can dance. I am feeling very inadequate right now, and that's on you, bud.
Oh, come on. Don't put that on me. Don't give me that guilt.
Okay.
I'm impressed, man. And trust me, having, I work on sort of the concert promotion side of the music industry and have done a lot of, lot of theater. Yeah. A lot of on the business side, but and just talking to actors and, sure. I know that, those auditions are brutal and you have to go on so many for the chance to even land one role. So it requires just incredible drive to even get started. So obviously the best of luck.
Yeah. If you want to relate it to something MCOC related, you open 50 Cavalier crystals. How many 5 stars do you get? You get 3 or 4. Right? It's kind of the same thing there.
Yeah, the RNG between the RNG between acting gigs and good pulls from Cav crystals is about the same.
Yeah,
the same. And if you want to talk about 6 stars, you probably won't get one in about 100 crystals. And that's really how it is, man. At the end of the day, it comes down to being in the right place at the right time.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right, good that we've kind of brought it back to the game because obviously, that is incredibly impressive. How do you find the time to play whilst you're kind of filming and shooting? Is there obviously could be times that you're called at ridiculous times to do it, to kind of like to get on camera. Get on set. Sorry, I should get you use the lingo on set. So you get chunks of hours to play, or like you just dull sitting around doing nothing.
Absolutely. I mean, well, here's the thing. With so many auditions all the time, there's a lot of waiting around, and even on set, there's a bunch of waiting around. And, when I'm in the moment, when I'm filming and getting ready to film and preparing, I'm in it. I'm not playing the game or anything.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of downtime, and it's either sit around or jump into AQ and AW and clear my paths. You know? So I just, it takes 2 seconds to clear your paths in AW and AQ. So I find a decent amount of time to play. When it comes to commuting to auditions as well, 40 minutes on the train, waiting an hour in the hall. It's an easy way to pass the time.
Yeah. Okay. Getting back to like
another.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, do you experience, I don't know where you are with roster and obviously where you are with spending on the game or progression. Do you suffer from similar problems as myself and Dan, where your roster is very busy and stuff like Alliance Wars and Alliance Quest, and then for getting done certain content based on maybe wanting specific champions, a specific type of rarity, is an issue? Is that a problem for you, or do you consider it not a problem?
Not really personally. I at the time I have I think 21 rank 5 champions, so they kind of they usually fill the void of what they have to do. They have their roles, and all the content in the game is 100% for me. I'm the type of person who usually clears it like right away. Like I already have Abyss done 100%. I did a Legends run for 6.3, so that was done right away as well. So usually I try to do it at a time when AQ and AW is not going on, and it's very very helpful when Dan posts his his post where he has the blocks of time in the month where all of your champions are free.
Yeah,
That's why I do that.
Yeah, that is a lot. If people don't consider that, that's why you should be following Dan, because there's stuff that you don't consider that being good advice, and that is amazing advice to say. Look, you've got a 2-week block, you've got a 24-hour block, use it to your advantage.
Yeah, it's very easy to plan that way, you know.
Okay, getting a game kind of like about the game. What device are you currently using at the moment?
Device. Well, currently I am on the iPhone XS Max, I believe, or the XS Plus, whatever it's called. Before this, I used the 8S Plus, and they both worked very similar, and they both work really great. They're very fast. I haven't had a single issue with them. I never experienced the overheating with them at the time. But I do remember when all of that was going on, that was a problem for some iPhones. But I never experienced that. I've always used Apple, and I've always had a great time with it.
Yeah, I think that seems to be a lot of players kind of gone towards just Apple devices. Okay, how long have you been playing, and what is your favorite champion in game?
I've been playing now for about 2 years, actually. So I've been playing for about 2 years, and my favorite champions in the game are Omega Red, Dr. Doom, Corvus, and I'm going to give it to Mojo as well.
Oh, going modern. That's what I like to hear. Going forward, not back. Okay, favorite comic book character?
Oh, favorite comic book character? I love me some Thor, dude. I love Thor. I'm also really big on the Fantastic Four. And believe it or not, I really love Gwenpool.
Wow, that's really interesting, especially for Gwenpool. I'm not saying it's interesting in a weird way, but interesting because, again, it's a character that you wouldn't like. It's out there as a kind of a character, like saying
absolutely.
Yeah, like just picking some obscure. I mean, for me, I quite like Deathlock, but the only reason I like Deathlock is because it's got the same second surname as me, which is, and he even has a son called Richard Manning. So Luther Manning, Deathlock has a son called Richard Manning. But Kabam,
awesome.
Kabam won't put him in game.
Hey, never say never, man. I can see him in the game for sure.
Right. Speaking of new champions, we recently had a little bit of a grant to play about with. Isn't that right, Dan?
That is right. The first new champion of March is now in-game. Moleman and his little buddy, Giganto Jr., have joined the contest. And one of the reasons we wanted Mike on for this episode, because we'd be reviewing a new champion, is I think Mike has been putting out some really quality reviews of the new champions. Mike just mentioned Mojo. I think Mike's champion fight with Mojo really put Mojo on the map and opened up some eyes. And I also like that Mike tests out champions in a very different way than I do. I'm always looking at it as, okay, I've got a 5-star rank 3 max sig. Let's put him in some content that I feel is appropriate. So end of Act 5, maybe uncollected, maybe beginning of Act 6. But Mike decides to take these champions into the end gamiest content he can find, and just, he's like, all right, we're gonna find the absolute best use for this champion. So Mike, I'm very interested in your evaluation of Moleman. What did you think about his kit? What experiments did you perform with Moleman in the difficult content, and how are you feeling about him?
Oh, Dan, I have so many thoughts on Moleman, dude. No, well, first of all, the animations on this guy, they're seriously some of my favorite in the game.
So fun.
It's
the
insane.
Victory animation is adorable.
Oh, I love it. And the special 3 when Giganto Jr. spikes the defender like a volleyball. Like, what else can you ask for from a special 3 animation?
Yeah. If you're going to put in a character called Moleman and he's going to be riding like this weird like dinosaur hybrid moloid creature, like you got to have fun with that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I just think that the designers did such a great job with him visually, And I think they did a pretty good job with him utility wise as well. And in theory, I think they did pretty well on the damage too. But I'll tell you what, man. A lot of people have already written this guy off as like this year's Diablo, but I feel like there's actually a lot of good about him. I do think there's a lot of really good hidden gems about this guy. So, we'll start off with the thing that everybody knows about him. He potentially has some absolutely insane damage output capability. I say potentially there because it's probably, unfortunately, the least practical big damage output in the whole game. And, I'll get more into that when we go over like the bad stuff about him, but I actually do see a lot of good in him that I haven't seen pretty much anybody talking about. So, I was actually just talking to Dave in the Discord that, you can enter the fight against any evading champion or any champion who auto blocks. And you don't even have to think twice about it. You can, as long as you're below 5 monster masses or mole masses, whatever they're called, there's not a chance that the opponent will evade or auto block. So you go into a fight against a MODOK, you don't have to worry about anything. You can intercept him and you could parry him and you could fight him normally. He will never auto block you. You fight Miles Morales, usually you throw a special attack and his evade counter goes up. He can get up to 99 evade counters and that guy will not evade. Now what's great about those two matchups is that they don't put debuffs on Moleman. Now, the issue with Moleman is that when he gets above 5 monster masses, that utility goes away. And whenever he shrugs off debuffs, which he has a 100% chance to shrug off a debuff if he's not fighting a mutant, he's going to gain monster masses. So the issue is that you're in a fight with evasion and also constant debuffs, and you're shrugging them off, which is great in theory, but then you get above 5, and that utility goes away,
So yeah, if we're kind of like going in the situation, say Miles Morales on Biohazard, then
yes. Then yeah. So that's the thing. Yeah. So he's good against the evasion for about 10 seconds, and then he's good against the Biohazard for about another 20 seconds. Because what he's going to do there is he's going to shrug off all of those bleeds until he gets up to 15 monster mass. Okay. Now when he gets to 15 monster mass, that's when Moleman is going to activate Frenzy, and that's where his damage comes into play. But what's going to be happening is you're going to be really aggressive towards Miles, but you're going to be gaining all of these bleeds on you that you're not going to be shrugging off. So Moleman is going to be dead in that situation before he even gets to put that damage output out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
With that being said, there's a lot of good to him that doesn't have to do with damage, So I when I play Moleman, when I was playing him, I tried. Actually, I wasn't even worrying about Frenzy. Like, when I got there in certain situations. But I used him for different things. Like, for example, he's immune to shock. There aren't too many champions who are immune to shock. So he also has guaranteed crits as well, right? So that makes him a pretty decent Dr. Doom counter. Now, there aren't too many Dr. Doom counters in the game as of right now, especially in content like Alliance War. Usually you throw your Ghost at Dr. Doom, and of course, Ghost is still going to be a better option. I'm not saying that we're replacing Ghost as the Dr. Doom counter. But with Dr. Doom's crit resistance and him placing shocks on the opponent, if you can get around that crit resistance and the problem of being shocked, well, then you're going to have a decent time against Dr. Doom. And every time Dr. Doom tries to place a shock on you, you're going to gain 1 monster mass. And this is a situation where you want to be in Frenzy. So, all in all, Moleman's a very decent Dr. Doom counter. Now, with the shock thing as well, that also makes him a pretty good option for the EMP modification. And that's when they place the passive shock on you. Because a lot of champions can't get around that, Dr. Doom is shock immune, and so is the Thing. They're very good for EMP modification as well. But that's a big no that could potentially be a roadblock. One example is Mr. Sinister in 6.2.2. That fight's a roadblock for a lot of people because of the EMP modification. They don't have somebody who's shock immune and poison immune. Now, I don't think that Moleman could do that fight, but that's one aspect of it that they can handle.
Yeah. One thing that you alluded to is the Alliance Wars applications, because let's face it, in War today I'm facing off against one mini, one main boss being, so that's 2 Dr. Dooms in that. So if you got 2 Dr. Dooms and say the defensive applications of Moleman, would you kind of like say that should we be saying Moleman is a better defender or a better offensive champion? Because you just alluded to, Dr. Doom counter is Moleman. So it would be difficult for players to kind of go, okay, am I using this for offense? Am I placing him in the defense? What would you say? Would it be a case going, look, he's good as a defender, but could you could you say like, oh, keep your Moleman because I need to use him against the boss potentially?
Tell you what, man. If you want to talk about defense for him, he could be annoying on defense for sure. I mean, if you hit into his block, he's going to go unstoppable, right?
That's going to get me.
It's going to get you. And in Alliance War, in Alliance War, man, they get aggressive when they go unstoppable.
Right.
You know how it is. You're going to get hit.
Yeah.
It's not like the event quest where you get to back off. They're going to hit you, and in theory, you're gonna say, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'm gonna bring in Stealth Suit Spider-Man with a slow debuff on him." All right, well, he's gonna shrug it off, and then, so there's not much you can do to counter that unstoppable. You just have to kind of play around it. But one thing with him though is that all the top mutants are still gonna work really well against him. He only has a 70% chance to shrug debuffs off from mutants. So Mega Red, even Archangel and like Domino, they're still gonna have a very easy time against him. You just have to remember not to hit into his block, which is kind of annoying. But once you get that down, you won't have too hard a time against him. But, keeping on the topic of Alliance War, there is one fight in Alliance War that this guy kind of seems to be made for. And I'm assuming you guys have played Alliance War any time in the past 2 months, right?
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a Void on Path 8, long distance relationship?
Oh, yes, I've done that.
Done that. So what
usually
happens...
there's a Reed Richards right before it.
For sure. Now let me ask you a question. What happens when you stay close to that Void on long distance relationship?
You start to heal, right? Or am I getting it backwards?
You're getting it backwards there because it's long distance relationship. So what happens is you're going to get a weakness debuff on you. And as you know with Void, when you have
it's that
debuff.
one.
So when you have a debuff on you, when you have a debuff on you from Void, you're going to start degenning. Right? Now, there aren't too many ways around that. But when we look at Moleman's kit, 100% chance to shrug off all debuffs. Now, you're fighting Void on this node, right? And you're getting these weakness debuffs on you. And you're just shrugging them off immediately. And if you happen to mistime your fight with Void and you don't, get to a 10, 20, 30, 40 hit counter when he's going to apply one of his debuffs on you, well, you just shrug that off as well. So what happens is you just kind of take that long distance relationship node and you kind of throw it out the window, and now it just becomes a regular Void fight. And now the options for that fight become so much easier because what you have to do usually is you have to take off Suicides, you have to throw in Archangel, you have to bring Blade and Ghost Rider, take off Suicides, you have to bring in Ghost and Hood, So you're bringing in all these champs where you're going to be using them for the one fight, but they require synergy. But now Moleman comes in, you don't have to change your masteries, you don't have to bring any synergy, and he takes this Void like any other Void. You can go in with Suicides and potentially leave the fight with about 70% health.
Nice. I mean, I like any champion that simplifies a difficult fight and the opponent's abilities. So that's exactly what you're describing about that scenario. So that is very appealing. Yeah. Now, we've talked a lot about you found some uses for Moleman, but you have mentioned that there are some drawbacks to his kit. So where do you feel like Moleman's coming up, a little bit short?
Where's he coming up short? Well, that's the thing, man. It's like he has all of this great utility. He has a shotgun as special one, so that makes him an option for Thunderstruck as well, which is one of the hardest lanes in all of Act 6, okay? Act 6.3.6, Thunderstruck, which is the one where if you don't have a shock on the opponent, you're going to be doing 90% less damage. It's one of those nodes. So he has all of this very interesting and very niche utility, okay? But the issue is a lot of his utility goes away when he reaches Frenzy. Okay, so he reaches Frenzy when you reach 15 monster mass. Okay, and the utility that goes away is the utility to shrug off debuffs, the utility to have that true strike that gets around the evade and the auto block. That actually goes away above 5. And the biggest issue for me is that if you accidentally miss a parry or take a hit on the block, which is something that we're kind of conditioned to do, take blocked hits. We have block for a reason. What happens if you're above 5 monster mass and you take a hit on the block, you're going to activate Frenzy. Okay? You're going to activate Frenzy and all of that utility goes away. And what happens is you're activating a weaker version of Frenzy where it only lasts for about 8 seconds instead of 15 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So ideally, we want to activate Frenzy at 15 monster mass, and we want to do it purposefully. The biggest issue with Moleman right now is that there isn't a way to guarantee your Frenzy in certain matchups. If you're fighting a champion like, let's say, Winter Soldier in Realm of Legends, right? You can control that fight, no problem. You'll activate Frenzy when you want to. You gain 2 monster mass on special 1, you gain 10 on special 3, and you gain 1 from a heavy attack. But if you're fighting a champion with debuffs, well, they kind of come whenever they want to come. And then when too many of them come, well, the fight's over. And speaking of that point, then you'll start to lose some health because while Frenzy's on cooldown, or when Frenzy's going down, getting ready to get to cooldown, you can't shrug anything off and you're taking damage. But another big issue with Moleman is that all of his damage comes from being at around 15% or less health. Now, that's just incredibly impractical because if you're playing in endgame content like Act 6.3 or soon to be 6.4, if you're at 15% health, you take a blocked hit, which is a part of his playstyle. You take a blocked hit, you're almost dead. You get 2 blocked hits at that point, So when you're in Frenzy, the idea is you want to dash back, you want to hold block, you want to let them dash into you, hit into your block, you go unstoppable, then you attack them, and your attack rating is increased while you're unstoppable. But then you throw off a special 2, you take 5% damage from recoil, and you're dead. So it's impractical, It's impractical to deal with to use his big damage in situations where you actually need that damage. I kind of describe Moleman as a Realm of Legends novelty, where you want to bring him in to Winter Soldier, you want to see those big yellow numbers, and you want to have a fun time with the big bleeds and shocks. But when you actually bring him into Act 6, he's actually quite useful for a number of paths, some of the hardest paths in Act 6, but they're going to be very long fights because you're not going to be able to activate his big damage.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So this is more a champion tailored towards like niche exploration on weird noded paths.
Absolutely, man. Some of the hardest paths, I think that he does very well. Can't Stop, Won't Stop in 6.3.1, the one that starts with Sentinel. Thunderstruck in 6.3.6. Mesmerize, the one where they evade and then you take damage from the and then you get stunned. What is it? Cramping. The node cramping, you'll shrug it off. But then at that point, you get to 15, you shrug off too many, you have to wait for Frenzy to run out. So that doesn't work out too well. But in theory, you can wait for that Frenzy to run out if you have no other options. I feel like Moleman is a very decent option to have in your kit when you need him. You know what I mean? Yeah. He kind of reminds me of Namor in a way where, I see people going crazy over Namor being nerfed, where first of all, Namor wasn't touched. Namor was not nerfed. Mine's going to be ranked back up tomorrow for sure. But people go crazy over how his damage was nerfed. But if you're using Namor for his damage, you're not using Namor correctly.
Well, that's the same thing that they said with Cull Obsidian, didn't they? That it was kind of like, okay, well, is he just a damaged champion? And I don't know if there's anything really extra to Cull Obsidian, but you're absolutely right. There's so much more to Namor. There's a particular node. I'm just trying to remember. I have to check my notes. In Act 6.3 that he's really good for. What is it? What is it?
The cramping node?
It is resist. It's not resist path. No, it's 6.2.5. Something to do with Electro.
Oh yeah, there's a 1% regen Electro. At that point, so that node's very tough because there aren't too many options for it right now. It's kind of Blade and Ghost Rider, Namor, Omega Red with Sabretooth, or Warlock. Those are pretty much the only options at the moment. Or I suppose Quake could probably do it as well. But what's so great about Namor there is that he's reflecting all of the damage that Electro throws onto Namor while also outpacing the regeneration.
Yeah, and getting back to Moleman, we've talked about a few different game modes, but we haven't touched on Alliance Quest, and I think, especially with Map 7, and I actually played Map 7 for the first time in 2020, the last 2 days, so my potion stash is it's hurting a little bit, but I got through it, so I'm feeling all right about that.
That's the way to do it, my friend.
Yeah, building it back up. Feeling good, shooting for a 400 mil score this week for the first time
Right,
with my
man.
alliance. So feeling good about that. But as you know, with map 6 and especially map 7, there's a lot of unavoidable damage. You need immunities, you need counters. Does Moleman have any application for high level alliance quest?
You know what? Like, kind of. Um, there. It's like, here's the thing, man. It's like there's a node. That, you have a shock on you for 30, 60 seconds, right? And he's shock immune. But here's the thing. It's like, are you going to use Moleman instead of Corvus?
No, I mean he would only use him if, and you'd never put anyone on that path who didn't have Corvus.
Of course,
they'd
and
be
then
fighting over. They'd be like, "Why am I not on this path?"
Right, and there's
So,
there's
yeah.
one thing. There's one thing about Moleman is he has a pretty respectable bleed damage, especially when he enters frenzy. And
Yeah.
there's do you bleed in map 7, which is quite annoying. But are you gonna use Moleman instead of Nick Fury? Are you gonna use Moleman instead of Gwenpool instead of Blade? You're not. You're just not going to. Another one is here's a big thing that comes from his drawbacks. Okay, I mentioned the can't stop, won't stop path in Act 6.3.1. Okay, now if you don't have any other options for that path, all right, if you don't have Thing and the Champion, if you don't have Aegon, right, you could spend an hour in Realm of Legends and you could farm up 100 potions and you can go into that path and you can get it done with Moleman. But you're not going to go into the can't stop, won't stop path in map 7 every day with 100 Alliance quest potions.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
you're
not gonna go into that fight, build up to frenzy, lower your health down to 30%, and then take blocked hits and hit them in small windows while you have the Unstoppable active. It's completely impractical. You'll be able to use him for one fight in map 7, on that path at least. So is he applicable for map 7? I mean, like, yeah, sure. But you're not going to be seeing him there.
Yeah, it's really tough to take a champion with no sort of health recovery mechanic into map 7.
That's the thing. He relies on playing at such a low health, but then he doesn't have a way to like regenerate at a low health. One thing I like about Mojo is that when you get to a low health, you can still toss off your specials while running suicides with recoil damage, and you're going to be regenerating all of that every time you activate a prompt. So with Mojo, I kind of see him as a champ where you play within like the 30 to 45% health range, and you kind of stay there. And that's where you stay, and you bounce back and forth between 30 and 45% health. It's part of the playstyle, and you kind of get used to it. With Moleman, you just keep dropping and dropping and dropping, and then you die.
Yeah. So let's give it seems like we've covered a lot with Moleman, and I'm a lot more interested in the champion now after talking to you. I'm wondering if he's going to be one of those that, like you said, he kind of was immediately written off, but he could have some selective value later on. So what's your final grade for Moleman, Mike? And then, Rich, why don't you give us a final grade too?
My final grade for Moleman, probably going to have to give him... I'm going to give him a 6.5 strictly because he's an answer for problem fights in Act 6 that there aren't too many options for. But what he is designed to be, I'm going to give him a 3. But I'm going to give him a 3 for what he's meant to be. But I'm going to look at him as something else and give him a 6.5, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think for me, I would give a down the middle of a 5 because I see the weak points and the positive points too much so that it needs to put it down the middle. However, though, because obviously for the CCP we're restricted with a 200 sig rank 3, I kind of feel it maybe push up to about a 7, maybe even coming to an 8, depending on what kind of numbers we see from a future 6-star rank 2, maybe. I don't know anybody would rank 3 at this given stage, but a 565, that's going to be interesting for me personally to see. What about you, Dan?
That is a very good point, Rick.
Yeah, I honestly didn't get to test the champion as much as I would have liked, just because of so many work restrictions this week. So I have to give him an incomplete, but I think the champion felt good to play, and I like the animations. And I think one thing that Kabam is doing really well recently is they aren't releasing clunky champs, even if they're big champs. And that I really, really appreciate. I think that Everything's just so smooth recently with how these champions move, and I'm just impressed that they basically had to incorporate two different beings into one character and these different skeletons. So, like you said at the top, Mike, the Kabam art team and designers from an artistic standpoint just continue to crush it. So I'm happy to have Moleman here, and I wouldn't mind pulling him. It's just like you said, why am I going to play him instead of Nick Fury or Blade or Gwenpool, or if I could ever pull him, Aegon right now? That's kind of where Moleman's falling. So
sure, and
hopefully we do find a reason.
I just want to clarify one thing. I gave him a 3 for what he was meant to do. This guy, as soon as he came out, he just started being billed as like the next Corvus, right? And he's just not. And even a Corvus at rank 3 is going to be hitting better than Moleman at rank 3. When Corvus came out, people were writing Corvus off saying, "Oh, Corvus sucks. He has 20 hits, and he's done," right? But it's a different case. This with Moleman it's build up to 15 frenzy for 45 seconds, and then have a really weird segment of guaranteed crits where half of them are really strong because you're taking hits on the block, and then you're actually taking hits to the face while you're charging a heavy attack, and it's just impractical. So that's why I gave him a 6.5 for the way I view him as a utility champ, but a 3 for what he was seemingly designed to be. You know,
right?
So I do see uses for him, but just not the uses that Kabam seemingly wanted.
Yeah. Right. Let's take our focus on to 26.0 and some new features. And this is really good for a lot. I think more to do with like new players. And as Kabam have said in the video they posted yesterday, mid-table players, I don't know. I can see this more as a new player type thing. So you go to search functions, find catalysts, those kind of things. And also we've got the objectives in very early on, and as well with the what we thought could be solo events going, and this really replacing them. But it looks like we've got solo events and we've got these objectives with these little RNG crystals. So I'm going to start with Dan. Dan, what are your thoughts on these new features that have been put in for 26.0?
I think the objectives are very interesting because we've talked a lot about game economy recently. And I think there's a big difference between what gets the players excited and how Kabam views the game economy. I think we get very excited when we see big end game resources, or we say, there's a gold problem, and they're like, okay, well, here's 500,000 gold at the end of this quest. And we're like, yes. But I don't think they like to do that as much. I think they want to have these crystals with a little bit of RNG. There's like, okay, here's some T4 CC shards here. Here's 9,000 gold there. And here's a little T4B here. But if you're playing the game every day, fully add up and solve the problem, but it's not very exciting.
Yeah.
But it doesn't disrupt the system by flooding the economy. And I think that's what they're trying to do with these objectives.
Yeah. Now, it is very strange to kind of see these kind of extra, as you said, it's not overloading the economy. It's nice to see these extra little crystals. Bit weird that you can refresh your daily objective. Like Mike, what have you had to? I know somebody got like a labyrinth-based objective on Twitter.
I saw that. Somebody got beat 3 labyrinth opponents.
Yeah,
And I mean, if that was me, and I'd probably just go in and I don't know, bring Ghost in and just kill Red Hulk a couple times. But I don't think I'd want to. Like, do I want to do that and then end up with 6,000 gold for spending 45 minutes killing Red Hulk?
Yeah.
No.
Exactly what.
That is a juice is not worth the squeeze scenario for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All the ones I've had. See, what I like about the objectives is that most of them you're going to do without even looking at them. Like usually because they're so new, I don't even think to look at them. I just see the little red 1 pop up and I go, oh, I completed an objective. It's win 5 fights with a heavy attack. Okay. And those just happen by themselves, naturally, organically. And then some people I saw one that said, complete an Act 6 quest. I mean, you got to be on your goddamn mind.
Yeah.
I think I have that one up right now.
Do you want to do that? You can do it. I ain't doing that. Get out of here.
not 100%
3,000
yet.
people, are you
So
sure?
yeah, I'm not 100% yet. So I'm going to do that naturally, and probably the next
You
time
have
we
it
have
tempered,
a
for
window. But
Yeah.
yeah, if what if it was like Act 4? Like, well, I guess I could do the Venom fight real quick.
Yeah.
And
Right,
that'd be all right. So, but yeah, and then I think overall, I think they're mostly player friendly, and it helps
agree.
helps the economy. I do like what they're doing with the resources. I think that is new player friendly. That's very important with a complex game that we all want to stay in business for a long time. We need new players, and you guys know, as content creators, you get all these questions, and you're just like, how do you not know this? But the game's complex, and if you're new to it, you don't.
Yeah.
Like
So true.
we've played too long, and we forget that we used to have problems with these things. So I like that. Kabam has a tough job where you've got the end gamers pushing for more, and you've got guys like Mike who are 100% Abyss and will be 100% Act 6.4 probably by the end of next weekend. and then you've got folks the next couple tiers down, and then the new players that are just trying to get into the game and are trying to learn a game that we learned when it had 24 characters, and they're learning it with 160.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a different time. When I came into the game, I didn't have to fight Thing, or I didn't have to fight Dr. Doom. I had to fight Karnak.
Right.
Okay.
It was a different time for sure.
We got Champion Index as well, which is helpful. I've still not seen much of a response.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it is fantastic. It's great as a resource, especially as a for YouTube in perspective. If you kind of go like, okay, I want to refer back to information on certain champions, it's there. I'm just it's still there. 6-star Star-Lord.
Yeah, man. What's up with that?
Yeah. I've been trying to follow up on the story of it, because this was something that I did cover for McCocnews on Friday. I don't think Kabam have answered the forum post. I'll have to check that out and see.
I haven't seen anything yet.
No, so it is very, very weird.
Odd, right? It's very odd.
I don't really know if it's they haven't responded to the post in actuality, but it is, if it was put in, is it a case it's a basic bitch version of Aegon? I'm still certain people would love it, would play it, and obviously see some massive numbers from it, but has that ship sailed?
Yes, the ship sailed a very, very long time ago, and honestly, the ship sailed before Aegon was even released. Star-Lord suffers from big damage, no utility, which is great in Act 5.
Yep.
And it's great in maybe the beginning of Act 6, but when maybe it's even great for an initial clear of Act 6. But then when you really get into the end game content of MCOC, there's not really a place for big damage, What makes Aegon so great is his utility, You're not playing Aegon for his damage. That's a perk, You're playing Aegon in Labyrinth and Abyss because he shuts everything down. He's completely unblockable, and he goes unstoppable with every hit. And on top of that, he has astronomical damage, But if the damage wasn't there, well, you'd still be using Aegon, but it would just be a longer fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love Star-Lord. He was my first rank 4 5-star. He got me through so much content back in the day, so I'll always have a special place in my heart for Star-Lord. But I agree with you, Mike. It's the big damage is there. There's no utility. And what I'm finding, as I'm slowly working my way through Act 6, there's a lot of scenarios where you want to minimize the number of hits you're hitting the opponent, the number of hits you hit the opponent with, because you want to minimize power, whatever. So I've come back to Archangel in a lot of ways.
I just ranked 5 mine 2 weeks ago.
Well, that's funny.
I'm seriously considering it
because Legacy's just done his, hasn't he? The last 24 hours.
And so did KT. There's been an influx of rank 5 Archangels as well.
Right, Dan. I'm doing mine. You're doing yours. It's sailed.
Look at that. That's 5. That's 5 Archangels. Come on.
There we go. Because now Archangel's a champion I played a lot. I went away from him, and now I'm finding that because you can end fights like with doing so few hits, right? And relying on the damage over time, that's become really, really critical. And I was like, man, I forgot about how awesome this guy is, because there are a lot of scenarios where Archangel is the best champion in the game for the fight.
Oh, without a doubt. And if they're not immune to bleed or poison, the fight's over in about 45 seconds. And I brought him to rank 5 with a 6.4 legend run in mind, because he ends fights so quickly.
Yeah. 3 months ago was the first time I picked up the 5-star.
Really?
Yeah. That's literally that champion has taken me through, because I've been delayed. My champions haven't really been there to do a lot of Act 6, but in the last 2 months with that champion has just made everything just so different.
Oh,
he's something special, man.
He's great. Yeah, and see, I think I had ignored him because he wasn't duped, and then I duped him from one of the featured crystals recently. And I was like, I gotta take another look at this guy. And once you get that dupe, he wrecks so much stuff. Man. He's a joy to play, but it's interesting because he's an older champion too, not as old as Star-Lord. And we talk a lot about champion reworks, and some characters really need the rework, but then you've got older characters like Archangel and Hyperion that are rather timeless.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, and I think, Mike, this is something I'm gonna jump a little bit ahead, but something we talked about. It was in your content creator spotlight that was on the Kabam forums, is sort of the classes and how Science used to be a terrible class, and then Red Hulk and Luke Cage and Spider-Gwen and She-Hulk got updated to bring those older Science champions into the meta on top of great champions like Void and Hulk Ragnarok and Thing being released. And you're hoping for something the same from the Mystic class, right? Because for me, Mystic's one of my favorite classes to play. But you're right, the older Mystics need a little bit of help, right?
Absolutely, they really do. They really, really do. And that was like I said to you, that was my favorite part of my creator spotlight. And I have it up right here. I want to give it the paragraph read. I said, let's take a stroll back to the beginning of 2018. All right, when Science was the class that you feared seeing show up out of any crystal you popped open. Fresh off the release of Sentry, the only Science champion you'd want anywhere near your account was Quake. The only champion. Fast forward over the next 2 years, which is how long I've been playing. So when I started playing the game, Sentry was just about released. And everybody was, pulling Science Awakening gems, Science Rank Up gems, and they were just cursing the name of Science, okay? Now, over the next 2 years, we see not only the addition of Void, Gladiator Hulk, Cap Infinity War, Wasp, and all 4 members of the Fantastic Four, but also significant buffs to She-Hulk, Spider-Gwen, Red Hulk, and Luke Cage. Now, that gives 13 champions in the Science class a genuine Rank 5 argument over the past 2 years. Now, with the recent additions to the Mystic class of Mojo, Longshot, Doctor Doom, Black Widow Clairvoyant, and even to a certain degree Man-Thing, it's time to beef up some of the earlier members of the class so that Mystic can go from worst to first, just like Science did. We're seeing the signs of that. We're seeing the killer additions to the class. Now it's time to beef up Thor Jane Foster. It's time to beef up Unstoppable Colossus, Iron Fist, Juggernaut. Yeah. It's time. It's time to buff up the damage of Loki, and Loki has utility, but his damage isn't there. Same goes for Mephisto. There's utility, but the damage isn't relevant anymore. It's time to just give it a little boost.
Yeah. At least Mephisto has been buffed by a lot third 565 was Mephisto.
Well, that's very cool.
Yeah, no, but that was very much a utility play, right? That was, we're going to shut down the buffs. I'm going to run them in AQ because I know I can build the regen, and I was still very Blade centric at the time, so I was very much building around the Blade synergy teams as well.
He's great with Blade. He's great. He has a great synergy.
He is. And, you're so right about the Science champions, how they were. My first rank 5 5-star Rank 5, 5-star. Rank 5, 4-star. 4-star was Joe Fixit, because that was my best option. It was the week after 12.0, and so Perfect Block had just been run into the ground, and I wasn't having much fun with Cap World War II, and it was those two choices, and I finally had the 3 T4 CC, and I was not waiting. So it was that, and then I ranked up, and then it was Moon Knight was my first skill. Like it was a crazy time back then, man. It was crazy. But yeah, I would love to see some mystics boosted, and yeah, you're right. There's a lot of mystics that need help, but personally for me, I feel like the mutant class really needs a lot of help, and that's partially because I don't have Omega, Namor, Emma, or Havoc, so I don't have the best ones. But I think there's a lot of champions like Rich. I know we need a 5-star Wolverine. The Deadpools need some help. There's just a lot of champions that I feel could be really good. Like I feel like Bishop could be really cool if they had made him now. And seeing what they had done with some champions like Captain Marvel movie that absorb energy. So I don't know. I've always been an X-Men guy, so I just think the X-Men should be OP.
Yeah, I find it funny that you say that, because I actually feel like mutant up with science is overall pretty much the strongest class.
It is. I just don't have them.
Yeah. And the thing is, the ones that you do have aren't really up there. I mean, we've got loads of Duff links in the.
So you have Magneto, Storm, and Cyclops.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, we're duping Beast all over the place. In my account.
Right. Okay, I understand.
I remember back in the day when it was, I want to say it was Legacy. He duped his Beast like early on, and he's just like, I don't want to learn how to play Beast. It was just the funniest line. He was so sad. I felt so bad for the guy.
Well, that's the thing.
I have a Sig 40 6-star Beast, so I understand.
Oh, yeah, that is pain.
I'm looking at my 6-star Magneto that Seaton pulled me at New York Comic Con, and
yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the Act 6 rewards, and I've got a little bit of a boost. I'll read out what they've now been set as. So, for the completion, Tier 2 Alpha Catalyst times 7, Gold 1.5 mil, Tier 5 Basic Catalyst times 3, 6-star Rank 2 to Rank 1 to Rank 2, Rank Up Gem times 1, 10,000 6-star shards, 25% of a Tier 5 class Catalyst Selector times 1, 5-star Hero Crystal shards times 10,000, 1 5-star Nexus Hero Crystal times 1, Exploration is Tier 5 class Catalyst times 1, T5B times 4, Tier 2 Alpha Catalyst times 8, 6-star Awakening Gem Crystal, 6-star Rank 1 to Rank 2 Rank Up Gem times 2, Gold 3 mil, and finally, the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life, a 6-star Nexus Hero Crystal, providing you get 3 decent champions or 2 rubbish and 1 good. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, Mike, you're going to complete this. Why don't you go first, because you're going to get these rewards a lot quicker than I will. So I want to see you are among what I would consider the end game community, and I want to say you were personally complaining, but a lot of the end game community said the initial rewards were not relevant. Yeah. So how are you feeling about this?
So I'll tell you what, man. It's funny. I was actually very satisfied with the original rewards.
Really?
Yeah. There was a severe lack of T5CC any percentage selector. Okay. There was a severe lack of that, and that was rectified. But it's really funny. My favorite things of the rewards, believe it or not, were actually the 3 4 to 5 gems that were taken out. Okay, and they were changed to 3. They were changed to 3 6-star 1 to 2 gems, and I was kind of sad about that. But then I realized that I'm an idiot, and that's literally the same thing except better. So those 6-star 1 to 2 gems are generic, okay? So, and the 4 to 5 gems would have been random. So what I could do is I could use the T5B and the T2A in the exploration rewards and on the map rewards, and I could use those for any 5 stars I want without feeling guilty of ranking up 5 stars instead of 6 stars. And then I'll have the 6-star gems to rank up my 6 stars when I have to. It's pretty much, it's stonks 101, you know? So the 25%, the 25% selector is really, really nice, although I really do wish that it was a 50% selector. As somebody who got 2 skill catalysts from Abyss, I just wish there was a bigger selector there. I always predicted that there would be a 50% selector and exploration of the rewards, but instead we got a 25% in just completion, which is still good. It's still very good. And I was expecting a generic Awakening gem in exploration as well.
Yeah.
You know, one thing is, I think that Abyss, it kind of spoiled us a bit when it comes to rewards. I feel like Abyss was released a little bit too early, where, you know, Act 6 being the more challenging content with worse rewards, it just kind of feels, you know, no matter what happens, it's going to feel kind of meh in comparison to Abyss, you know? When in reality, Abyss is truly not all that difficult. It's just a bit of a marathon. The 6-star Nexus Crystal is fantastic. Really great. You know, depending on RNG, it could either be account changing or it could be a great meme. But you know, but overall, I'm happy with the rewards. I'm happy to get them. I'm really happy to rank up a bunch of champions after. I think it's good.
Yeah, I gotta say that it was interesting to see the process, because as Rich and I were talking about last week, the thread on the forum was pretty much universally negative. So it is nice.
It was killer. It was man.
It was pretty rough. It was pretty, yeah. There was a lot of cooler heads were prevailing on that thread for sure. But Kabam did take some time. They did listen. They did talk to the community, and we all, at least in the CCP, a bunch of us participated and gave our thoughts on what we thought was going to happen. And as far as the rewards being updated, we got more than I thought we were going to get. Yeah. I didn't think we were going to get 3 generic 6-star 1 to 2 gems. There's no way. I was hoping for 1.
That's insane. That's insane. I did not think we'd even get 1. I was thinking they were going to take out the 4 to 5 gems and give like 1 or 2 random 1 to 2 gems is what I thought it was going to be.
But have these things prior to these rewards, like the 6-star Nexus Crystal and the rank up gems you just said, they haven't really been invented in the community.
Exactly. We've never seen them before.
So that's, again, something unique.
A lot of people were calling for the T5CC selector, and I had a feeling that something T5CC was going to have to happen to move the needle, but I never thought a 6-star Nexus Crystal was on the table.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
That blew my mind.
That was like a really big surprise.
I want to say we actually called it on the podcast that we were going to see it.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was episode 1 or the Metal Sonic Dude episode. I'm pretty certain we called it on the podcast that it would be a thing.
Well, we're going to have to go find the clip.
We will have to find it. If I find that, I'll have to mention it. Or
it just going to
be a quick splice.
Yeah.
It just seems too good to be true. You know, I can't believe that it actually exists. You know?
Yeah, and for it to be in a non-paid scenario, right? Like that's what was really surprising is for me is it seems like the Nexus crystals, they don't want to do a ton of them. We're usually seeing anything Nexus is in a deal. So I was pretty surprised by that. So
I think it's just great that I get to choose after 100% Act 6 if I want either Rhino, Magneto, or Cyclops. I just think it's lovely.
Imagine if you get both Cyclopses as choices in that crystal.
I tell you, Dan, I have absolutely no expectations for this crystal. I just think it's a really cool thing. I'm not expecting anything.
Yeah.
Like I'm expecting nothing good coming from it. I just think it's cool.
I am looking forward to that crystal opening. Will you do that in a video, Mike?
Absolutely. 100%.
And what's your timeline? Are you gonna legend run this thing?
I think I'm gonna legend run it. I really want to see the top 300 Legends reward for Abyss of Legends. What I get from that, because if I get a mutant gem from that, I might consider not doing a Legends run for 6.4, and then I can just awaken Weapon X with the mutant gem and just save a bunch of resources, you know, and just kind of enjoy it instead of just going at it for 14 hours straight. But if I don't get the gem, I'll go for it. And then I'd like to go for it as soon as I can, but I would also like to build up some more units first.
Yeah, Rich, just, a casual Legends run to dupe a 6-star Weapon X. Nothing to worry about, right, bro?
I mean, for me, I'm kind of going like, oh yeah, what am I up to next month? Oh right, that's probably 100%ing Act 6.2 or 6.3. So I'm like, I'll take it at my own pace,
Well, Mike, we're all going to be we're rooting for you if you do decide to go for that Legends run. Certainly,
I appreciate it.
Let us know, because we will be pulling for you, and certainly we all know you got the skills to pull it off and get your name up on the leaderboard. So, one last thing while we get you on the podcast that I want to talk about. We touched on earlier that you were one of the content creators that really pushed Mojo. And you liked him so much, you're like, I gotta get this blobby dude, and I'm gonna do the feature arena. But it didn't go exactly as planned. And you were Mr. 152 of round one. How did that happen? How did you feel, man?
I'll tell you what, man. I was really, really sad at first, dude. Like, I was very, very upset. I did 50.
Nervous?
Going to check the score for if I made it or not.
Yeah, like when you were done, when you had your final score, did you think you had him, or were you nervous?
And what I thought that I had him, but there was something in my mind that was like, what if I'm 151? Imagine.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was thinking he was gonna go around 45 billion, because you know what, man? Before I released those videos of Mojo, no one was really liking him too much, And then I put out the video, and I was talking to Legacy about it, and then Legacy made his video as well, and then people started sharing my video and his video around, and collectively they got about 50,000 views together. And, I didn't really think about that. And my one of my friends from the game, his name is Contest of Noobs. He texts me almost
we know
every
Contest
day.
of Noobs, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Contest of Noobs. And he texts me almost every day. And he says, hey, can you imagine what it would be like to be the guy who hypes up Mojo and then misses him in arena?
Oh, no. Oh, no. Contest of Noobs.
Yeah, so he does that all the time. But like I said, at first I was pretty upset about it. And what made me even more upset was that about 2 hours after the results came out, there was about 4,000 accounts that were banned by botting and BlueStacks and other things as well. And I don't know for sure if any of those accounts contributed to the top 152. But it would really suck if they did,
For sure.
But like I said, I don't know for sure. I don't think there's any evidence that they were. But, and it's one of those things where, you can't, even when it comes to like arena mercs, I can't sit here and I can't expect Kabam to go through 150 accounts twice a week of a 72-hour time frame and make sure all of those are legit. They have so much on their plate. And, very often people just say, oh, we'll just ban the cheaters. Well, yeah, we could just ban the cheaters, and that would be great. But, it's not that simple. You can't expect them to spend all that time checking 150 accounts for a 72-hour span, because at that point, do you also check all 800 accounts in the 4-star featured? Do you check the top 50 of the 4-star basic? And you know what? You can't put anything automatic in place either, because, what happens to the guy who plays on his iPad at home, his iPhone when he's carpooling in the car, his iPod Touch at work, and his girlfriend's Android device when his phone dies, all right? That's one person's account being played on 4 different devices by the same guy within the 72-hour time frame of Arena. And all of that is within the terms of service, but that's going to look extremely suspicious to any sort of automatic ban, right? Now, that guy is playing completely legit, but he gets banned because some people play on bots and use arena bots and use mods, right? Now, I think Kabam is doing great things by banning anyone who used BlueStacks. And I honestly do think it's very good that it's only a 1-week ban for a couple of reasons. Number one, everybody does deserve a second chance. I do believe that. And number two, there are many people who were playing legitimately on BlueStacks and didn't know it was against terms of service. So this is it's a slap on the wrist. Don't do it again. And I believe if they do it again, that's going to be a permanent ban. And we've seen a lot of permanent bans by people who are really abusing the game and using mods and hacks and content like Abyss of Legends, and we saw the same thing in Labyrinth and Realm of Legends way back when, So, banning cheaters it's a very it's a very sticky subject, man. And people might think it's so easy for Kabam to do that and think they're just not doing anything about it. But they definitely do look into it as much as they can.
Well, yeah.
But sometimes it's not always as black and white as you may think.
And look at how long the Legends runs for Abyss are taking, right? Like we know they're manually checking them to get the top 300. Yeah. Look at how long this is taking. And you're exactly right. Like and that's one piece of content. That isn't an arena that happens every week, twice a week.
Right. You want it to happen twice a week? It's illogical. You could say, oh, Kabam's not doing anything about arena. What do you want them to do? Like, what do you want them to do? There's nothing does it suck? Yeah. It really sucks. But what do you want them to do with the current format of arena? There's just nothing that can really be done.
It's such a tricky issue because just for so many reasons, like you said, the manpower and how long it would take, and it's also just one of those difficult narratives for the company because people say, what are you doing about cheating? And they're like, we're trying to ban cheaters. How? Well, we can't tell you because we can't let the cheaters know.
Of course. Then at the same time, it's like, well, why aren't you doing more with this? Well, because we're developing the frickin' game that you play. There's not going to be an arena if we spend all of our time banning people instead of making the arena. You know what I mean? There's only so much time in the day.
It's like any other company, right? You have a limited number of resources and you have to make a choice as to how they're going to be allocated, and sometimes certain things don't get done and aren't prioritized. It's like the to get away from the just topic of bots and banning people, right? Like a lot of people are really looking forward to Cavalier difficulty, but we were told, well, we can't do Cavalier difficulty and variant 4 and Abyss and Act 6 at the same time. Right. Which is a reasonable argument when you're around the conference table at work. You're saying, well, we're doing this and we're doing that, and then we're going to do this, and we know what's coming. But if you are the person that's like, well, I like the EQ more than anything else, and they're releasing the content that I don't care about as much, you get upset because your baby isn't getting prioritized.
Sure.
I mean, for me, it's like I like variants more than I like
I love variants.
like story quests or event quests, because I just find that they do add that element of fun, which is one of the reasons that I started playing the game. I don't have to. Well, you definitely have to use a diverse roster for it, and it just keeps me more interested in it. And some of the trash champions get a look in, and it's really cool.
They did a great job. I mean, wrecking stuff with my Dormammu in variant 2.
Oh my god,
that was awesome. It was
it was crazy.
Right. It's like, why aren't you like this all the time?
Why aren't you indestructible always?
I know. It's like indestructible and power drain. What more do you want from life, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, so those variants are fun. I hope variant 5, which should be the Venom and Guillotine one.
Yeah, I think it's called Blood and Venom, I believe.
Yes, Blood and Venom. Yeah, hopefully that's coming soon. Hopefully Cavalier difficulty is coming soon.
Yeah, we really need that, man.
We do need that for a number of reasons, because we got to keep the end gamers like you, who are going to be 100% Act 6 and Abyss by this time next week. We got to keep you guys busy.
I agree. I mean, it's almost at the point where I'm almost auto battling through Uncollected for the past couple months, and it's just
terrifying.
It's not, it's like it's not good for the game. It becomes a chore. Like Rich said, he has fun in variant. I have a lot of fun in variants because they're difficult, and Act 6 because it's difficult. When it comes to Uncollected, it's like, all right, let's go through let's smash through it for, at this point, these outdated rewards just because we got to do it.
Right.
I think it's time. It's time for the Cavalier difficulty. I don't even think that updating uncollected rewards are necessary because they're very good for players who just became uncollected. But it's at the time where we're seeing nodes that are initially found in Act 6 make their way into uncollected. And I'm a person who, a lot of people say the best part about this game is the people that you meet. And
oh yeah,
I agree with that. And I'm still in all of my alliance chats from when I was progressing through the game. And for some of my earlier alliance chats, they say, what the hell are these nodes? And then someone else who did Act 6 in that alliance is like, oh, well, that was in 6.2. Now, someone who's just beaten the collector is saying, why is this an uncollected difficulty? And you know what? They're right. They shouldn't have to deal with they shouldn't have to deal with those nodes.
It's good. Well, especially the other side is I do think it's good training, but the thing is they don't have that wired in to go, look, you doing this now is good preparation for when you do it. But at the same,
that's another good point. Yeah.
But on the other side is it OTT? It's over the top for this moment in time that you're seeing this. Should it be a case that it's difficult, isn't it? Going like, yes, okay, here you are, be prepared, but at the same time, you're not really ready for this. It's a difficult thing to juggle there.
The slippery slope, it really is.
Yeah, I mean, and we've got to remember, right? Like at the time when we all became uncollected, you're talking about running into nodes like masochism, and that being a real roadblock.
Oh my God!
For people
can I tell you seriously?
That's where you were in the game.
Yeah, go, Mike. Go.
I personally think the biggest roadblock in the entirety of MCOC is Act 5.2.4, lines in the sand. The first time you encounter masochism. I was stuck on that. That is the only thing I was ever stuck on in this entire game. I was stuck there for about a month. I was stuck on that chapter for a month at the time going through it.
I think I powered through it. How many units needed? Just plow it.
Yeah, and that's what it ended up being. After a while, I was like, all right, well, I just got to get past.
Yeah, I remember finally getting the one run through 5.2.4 and saying, guys, if 2.5 is worse than this, I'm done. And everyone's like, no, it's not worse. Like, you got through.
It's so much easier.
But because I was like, guys, I don't think I can handle it. And this was right when it came out. So there was a lot of pressure that if you couldn't get uncollected and keep up because of the reward tiers, that you were going to fall behind and get cut. So I was stressing.
Feel you, dude.
For sure. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think we've come to the end of topic to talk about.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm going to start off with Mike. Mike, what are you up to this week, or any content we can look forward to you're going to be posting?
Absolutely. I'm going to be posting a bunch of Moleman videos that actually show him doing pretty well.
Brilliant.
So that's going to be going up. I'm also going to be doing a big rewards breakdown on Act 6 and Abyss, and that's going to be showing you what you're going to be getting if you have Act 6.1, 2, and 3 already 100%, what you'll be getting by doing 6.4, and if it's more worth your time to focus on Abyss or 6.4 in the upcoming weeks, and also what it looks like for the entirety of Act 6 rewards as opposed to the entirety of Abyss, and which you should focus on if you haven't really touched either. So that's what's coming up for me.
Okay, brilliant. Dan, what are you up to, or what can we look forward to?
I am super excited for the International Women's Day Boss Rush.
Yeah.
We've seen some teasers. It's going to drop in just about a few minutes now, actually, from the time we're recording this. And I'm looking forward to making a walkthrough. I think these boss rushes are great for the community, but there's often a lot of commentary about how difficult they are and do you have the right counters. So I really want to focus on making a nice written walkthrough for the boss rush. And then hopefully I'm going to try to interview some of the women of the contest that have created these challenges. And I want to ask them a few questions about their involvement in the boss rush and the goals for their particular fight. So
fantastic.
I think that's going to be heavy on the boss rush for me this week.
Fantastic. I have no idea what I'm doing. I haven't prepared anything. Well, make it up as I go along, as I usually do.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably be editing this, and then I'll have to get some notes together on what this boss rush will be, which will be dropping fairly shortly. So good luck to everybody that's doing it at the moment. And thanks to Mike for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, man. I had a great time talking with you guys.
Fantastic. We'll have you back down the line. We're only 7 in, so we've got plenty of opportunity to have you back. And check out all of Mike's channels, Twitter, YouTube, in the bios for the podcast, wherever you're watching or listening from. So YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Thank you, everybody, for viewing, listening in, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.